Hey minions, welcome to Crank It Up. I'm Jim Price, and on this episode of Action Awareness, I want to talk about two actions, Augmentation of the Dinosaurs and Summon of the Wizards. Both are incredibly straightforward, as are most actions of both factions. As I mentioned on Monday, I did something similar with the ninjas and aliens for King of the Hill, and my OCD will eat me alive if the two playlists have different numbers on different weeks. So this video realigns them, and this particular face-off seemed like a good opportunity because together, these actions represent the two primary means of advancing on a base, increasing power or increasing minions. To talk about these actions is to examine the general path to victory, and I think the game wants you to think that the summon route is better than the augmentation route, but I'm not sure that's the case. Players also tend to prefer wizards over dinosaurs. So I'll be discussing the advantages and disadvantages of both strategies as well as their impact and legacy with the game. Both of these are double features, which makes them an even better point of comparison. At the core of these two cards are the concepts of power creep, both my definition and the Magic the Gathering definition. My definition, which was termed without knowing that Magic had a similar term, is the steady progression of power on a base that makes it easier for someone else to break that base. Like starting off a 21 breakpoint base with an 18 power drop. Sure, just let me take second place. And by me, I mean the player to my right, as I sit and do nothing but get frustrated. This really happened once. The Magic definition is that newer cards can make older cards seem weaker in hindsight. You sometimes see this when newer cards are objectively better than others. For augmentation, it is immune to my power creep because it is a terminal play. With rare exceptions, you play it to finish a base off, regardless of whether or not it's your minion, as there are sometimes reasons to give that power to another player. The end result is the same. I play this action to increase the power on a base by 4, and you push the base to its breakpoint. And augmentation has held up pretty well over time. As a general rule, I say that no double feature should be objectively weaker than another, although there are clear violations of this rule, because it makes it hard for everything to be balanced when you have clear examples of a head start. But augmentation outclasses its blitzing time, which only adds 3 power and can only affect your minions. Way of the Warrior isn't objectively better than augmentation, though it's better than its blitzing time. In fact, there aren't many cards that add a blanket 4 power, and most of them require special circumstances to do so. The sumo wrestlers need to discard a card to do it, while the luchadors need a setup card. Cowboys need to be in a duel. Only the Astronauts get by with a single card that only has a minor difference. Dunwich Horror can eclipse augmentation, but functions like a terminal play anyway and doesn't have the benefits of being a standard action. But Summon is not a terminal play, in theory. It is often used as a terminal play because using it early has limited advantages. More minions in play means more power creep. It means more candidates for destruction. It also means more abilities that make it worth it on occasion. But more often, Summon is a terminal play for me that requires another card, another minion. Does that minion add at least 4 power? Maybe, but not always. And even if it does, it requires at least 2 cards, while I can do the same with augmentation with a single card, but that locks me into dinosaurs. Summon, however, has had several attempts at replication in various forms. Instagrow is another double feature and an exact duplicate. Unexpected Party is weaker than Summon, but it brings up an interesting point. There are 3 moments to play Summon typically. To start a base, aka the beginning, while a base is being contested, which I'll often call mid-game plays, and the terminal play when you're finishing a base off. And while Summon gives you the flexibility of all those moments, I don't think that the mid-game case makes sense that often. It's the worst of both worlds. You get the same abilities to start a base and end a base, but you are just adding power creep and possibly overpaying for your position. So Unexpected Party is weaker, but in the halfling context, that may not entirely matter that much. Still worth noting, if the beginning is weaker and the mid-game makes no sense, then Togetherness power really doesn't have that much of a difference, despite being objectively weaker from a legal standpoint. Never once have I felt constrained by Togetherness power, because it seems like you want to use it to advance on a base anyway. Using it to spread out doesn't really work well with the Mythic Horse strategy. It may have its moments, but not often, and not enough to avoid doing damage to Summon's legacy. There's Commission, but Commission is pretty annoying honestly, because it creates that mid-game moment because of the obligatory movement. Ghostly Arrival gives you a summon and an extra action. Repaying Debts can easily function like a summon. It's Alive is almost always better than summon. Care Package gives you an extra card. Enshrouding Mist requires the ability to be played on a base, which is almost always guaranteed, but is even better than a summon. They Keep Coming can be situationally better than a summon, since the card doesn't have to come from your hand. And these are just some of the double features. It's a fair question to ask. If the extra minion route were the better option, despite being more card inefficient, why have there been so many close replications of summon while augmentation is mostly unscathed? And why are some actually better than summon? Maybe the game is course correcting to make up for the fact that the summon route requires more cards. The truth is, power is power. Whether it comes in minion form or increased form matters sometimes, and sometimes significantly, but in most cases it does not. There are times when greater power is better, there are times when greater minion quantity is better. The goal of this is not to say that summon is weak. It's to show that power-based increases aren't weak either. They both have their advantages and disadvantages. In a game where minion efficiency is everything, power-boosting actions save precious minions and allow you to be more efficient with your cards, ensuring that you always have a presence. This does create a timing issue, however. Additionally, between the two plays, you are more likely to waste your action than your minion unless you are simply out of minions, so the summon style approach and its ability to start early does prove useful. It can even force players into making a play to keep pace or ensure their presence, which you can then use to your advantage. Finally, we have to consider the ultimate forms of these strategies. Playing an extra minion seems to have been deprecated in favor of additional abilities, but it's not that steep a drop. Augmentation, despite being the best terminal power play, suffers because terminal plays and timing issues they create are not as good as power activation strategies or play on minion power strategies. Neither strategy suffers from the same timing issues as terminal plays, but power activation also prevents power creep, which is why it's my preference. So I think summon holds up slightly better in this context, but overall, I really do like both paths to victory. It's fascinating to me. Summon supports swarm-style factions, and we tend to consider swarming the strongest archetype. But maybe it's because these factions are self-swarming. Sometimes raw power is all you need. Sometimes strength comes from numbers. It's a testament to the game that both are truly viable strategies, even though it doesn't always feel like it. You don't need extra plays to compete, though it certainly does help. If we are simply comparing what the actions matter to their factions, I'd have to pick Summon. Dinosaurs suffer because they have 4 terminal actions while the Wizards are near guaranteed to use both summons. But it's hard to beat that 2-card efficiency of the 11 power King Rex. What do you prefer? Let me know in the comments. That's it for this week. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let's shut it down.